You already know the phrase, money goes to money. Most people treat it like an old superstition, something rich families whisper to feel better about being rich. Here's what almost nobody tells you. There is an exact measurable dollar amount where that superstition stops being folklore and starts being math you can run yourself. It is not $100,000. It is not a million. It is not even close. It sits at $20,000, and the moment you cross it, something shifts underneath you that you will not be able to unnotice for the rest of your life. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will know exactly what that shift is, exactly when it happens to you, and exactly why almost every financial creator online is describing it wrong. My name is Chris, and I study how ordinary people build real wealth without lucky breaks, trust funds, or inheritance. No gimmicks, just mechanics. If you want the actual machinery behind that $20,000 shift, subscribe and hit like, because this channel is where I break moments like this one down until they actually make sense. Here is what nobody explains properly. That shift at $20,000 is not mystical, and it is not really about willpower either. It is the point where your money starts paying you a second paycheck. A small one at first, barely enough to notice, but real, automatic, and completely independent of whether you show up to work tomorrow. I am going to call this the second paycheck effect for the rest of this video. Remember that phrase because it is going to come back later in a way that changes how you see every dollar you have ever saved. Once you understand exactly how it works, you will never look at a savings account balance the same way again. But understanding the paycheck means understanding what happens before it exists. And that part is uglier than most people admit. Picture this. You are sitting across from your manager during a review and you know you deserve more. You have the number ready in your head, but the words do not come out because some quiet, panicked part of your brain is doing math on your bank balance instead of your worth. So you smile. You say, no worries. You take the raise they offer instead of the one you earned. That is not weakness. That is not a personality flaw. That is your brain doing exactly what evolution built it to do under threat, narrowing your entire field of vision down to short-term survival and shutting off anything that looks like long-term thinking. Researchers have a name for it, scarcity mindset, and almost everyone watching this has lived inside it at some point without knowing its name. Here's where it gets interesting. Vanguard's behavioral economics team, led by researchers Paulo Costa and Milena de la Fuente, did not just theorize about this. They surveyed more than 12,000 of their own investors to measure it directly, and the results should reframe how you think about enough money. Households with just $2,000 set aside for emergencies reported 21% higher financial well-being than households with none. Not people with $50,000, not people with a paid-off house, just $2,000 regardless of income. Push that cushion out to 3 to 6 months of expenses, and well-being climbs by another 13% on top of that. Those same households spent less than half as much time each week worrying about money, and were 3 times less likely to report their financial stress getting worse year over year. Read that again. Relief does not wait for you to get rich. It arrives in stages, and it starts arriving long before $20,000, but here is the part almost nobody puts together. $20,000 is where those small stages of relief stop adding up quietly in the background and start compounding into something completely new, something you can actually feel arriving in your accounts. That's next. Let's make this concrete because vague inspiration doesn't pay rent. Historically, a diversified stock portfolio has returned somewhere around 7% a year after inflation. That's the real number, not the flashy nominal figure most finance videos wave around to make the math look more exciting than it actually is. We'll come back to why that distinction matters later. Now watch what happens as the balance grows. At $2,000 invested, a 7% return hands you about $140 a year, roughly $12 a month, a rounding error. You wouldn't notice if it vanished. At $10,000, that same 7% becomes $700 a year, about $58 a month. You'd notice now. But it still doesn't feel like income. It feels like a nice surprise. Then you cross $20,000 and everything changes. That same 7% is now generating roughly $1,400 a year, close to $117 every single month, arriving whether you worked overtime or called in sick. Whether you got the promotion or got laid off, it shows up either way. That's the second paycheck effect. It won't replace your job. But it is the first time in your financial life that your money is contributing something that feels like income instead of just sitting there as a number on a screen. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you in a good way. that second paycheck is about to start getting raises of its own faster than you'd expect. Say you're investing $1,200 a month at that same 7% average return. Your first $20,000 takes about 16 months of steady contributions. Not fast, not fun. Mostly just showing up month after month, saying no to things you wanted so you could keep the habit alive. Here's the twist. Your second $20,000 does not take another 16 months. It takes about 15. That missing month didn't come from working harder. It didn't come from saving more. It came from your first $20,000 quietly generating its own return while you were doing something else entirely, maybe sleeping, maybe watching this video. Keep going, and the gap keeps widening. Once your invested balance reaches $250,000, that same 7% is generating close to $1,460 a month in returns alone. Stack your regular $1,200 contribution on top of that, and you're assembling your next $20,000 in roughly 7.5 months. Less than half the time your very first $20,000 took. Using the exact same monthly habit you started with, this is where people's brains usually snag. It sounds like there must be a secret tier, a private fund reserved for people who already have money. There isn't. It's the same index fund, the same brokerage account, the same 7% return available to someone investing $50 a month. The only thing that changed is scale, and scale is exactly what your first $20,000 buys you a ticket into. You'd think the hardest money you ever saved would be the last chunk before some big goal. It's actually the opposite, and the reason why has almost nothing to do with money at all. Here's something almost nobody making videos about this topic will tell you. It might be the single most important reframe in this entire video, so give me 2 minutes. You've probably heard of the marshmallow test. Stanford, the 1970s. Researchers leave small children alone in a room with one marshmallow, promising a second if the kid can wait 15 minutes without eating it. For decades, this was treated as airtight proof that willpower alone predicts financial and academic success for the rest of your life. Even Susan Wojcicki, the late CEO of YouTube, is documented as having taken that exact test as a preschooler at Stanford. Now picture the story everyone tells from this. The disciplined kids grew up rich, the impatient kids didn't. Case closed, except that's not what the fuller data says. When researchers repeated the marshmallow test decades later on a much larger and more economically diverse group of children, the predictive power of waiting for that second marshmallow shrank by roughly 2/3 once family income and background were factored in. Kids from financially stable homes were simply more likely to trust that the second marshmallow would actually show up. Kids from unstable homes had often already learned correctly that promised rewards don't always arrive. Now translate that finding onto your bank account, and it flips the entire discipline narrative on its head. Delayed gratification isn't purely a fixed trait you either have or don't have. It gets dramatically easier once you have enough of a cushion to trust that waiting will actually pay off. This is why your first $20,000 feels like the hardest one you'll ever save. You are building the discipline and the evidence for that discipline at the exact same time, with none of the trust that money is supposed to buy you. Every dollar after that gets easier to hold on to because you now have proof in your own account that the system works. You are not becoming a different person by saving. You are becoming someone who has finally been shown the marshmallow actually arrives. And once that trust exists in your bank account, it starts spilling over into places that have nothing to do with investing. Money does something to your job that has nothing to do with returns or percentages. It changes your leverage. Imagine your boss says something unreasonable in a meeting. If you have no cushion, you swallow it because you need this job more than you need your dignity this week. If you have $20,000 sitting quietly in an account, that same comment lands differently. You can push back. You can say no. You can walk out of a review and mean it if you have to. The median American household keeps about $8,000 in checking and savings combined, according to Federal Reserve data. If you have $20,000, you're sitting at 2.5 times the national median. That's not a vanity number. It's months of survival runway if you lose the job, take a pay cut, or simply refuse to keep working for someone who doesn't deserve you. Here's a comparison to make it tangible. A calculates that owning an average new car costs about $965 a month once you factor in depreciation, financing, insurance, fuel, and maintenance. Basically $1,000 a month just to drive something that loses value the second you own it. Meanwhile, a person living lean on $2,000 to $3,000 a month, sitting on $20,000 in the bank, has somewhere between 6 and 10 months of pure runway to leave a bad job, retrain, or start something new without panicking. That same $20,000 poured into a flashy car buys almost nothing by comparison, just depreciation and a monthly bill. Here's the part that should really land. You rarely have to actually spend that runway for it to work. Just knowing it exists changes how you negotiate a raise, how you push back on an unreasonable ask, how confidently you walk into a room you used to dread. Confidence like that tends to get noticed, and notice tends to get paid. There's another cost this same cushion quietly erases, one that has nothing to do with your career and everything to do with the tax you didn't know you were paying. Here's a tax you stop paying the moment you cross this line. And it's not the kind the government collects. In 2024, once credit unions were properly counted, Americans paid an estimated $12.1 billion in overdraft and insufficient funds fees combined, a number actually higher than earlier estimates suggested. And despite years of regulatory pressure meant to shrink that figure, several of the largest banks reported overdraft revenue climbing again through 2025. JP Morgan alone collected over $815 million in overdraft-related fees in just the first 9 months of that year, up more than 7% from the year before. Read that again. Rising. In 2025, after years of supposedly declining. None of that touches someone with a real buffer. A $35 overdraft fee is background noise once you're sitting on $20,000. You might not even notice it happened, but it is a real compounding tax on people who are already struggling the most, and escaping it silently is one of the least talked about perks of building this cushion. Now, here's the warning nobody gives you at the exact moment you'd need to hear it most, the moment you finally cross the line. Here's the mistake that undoes all of this for a lot of people the second they arrive. They hit $20,000. They feel that rush of relief, that finally I made it feeling, and they immediately reward themselves with something that erases it: a car upgrade, an expensive trip, a down payment they can't actually afford. None of that is evil, but it treats the milestone like a finish line instead of a foundation. And yeah, here's the identity shift that actually matters. The habit that got you to $20,000, saying no to things you wanted so you could set money aside instead, is worth more than the $20,000 itself. That habit is what builds the second $20,000 and the one after that faster each time. Spend the identity along with the money, and you're back at the bottom of the hill with none of the momentum you just spent 16 months building. You didn't just save $20,000, you became someone who saves. Protect that person. They're worth more than the number in the account. Survive that trap, and a door opens that wasn't available to you before. $20,000 also unlocks doors that simply weren't open to you before. As of 2026, you're allowed to put up to $7,500 into a Roth IRA for the year, up from $7,000 the year before. Max that out, and you still have $12,500 left to build a real diversified position, spread across index funds, maybe a bond fund, instead of gambling everything on 1 or 2 stocks because that was all you could ever afford to risk before. One honest caveat here, because most videos on this topic conveniently skip it. Every number I've used tonight assumes a real after-inflation return, and real markets do not move in a straight line. Some years you'll see 15% gains, other years you'll watch your account drop 20% and feel sick about it. The math works over long stretches of time, not over any single year, and $20,000 mainly buys you the emotional stability to actually stay invested through the bad years, instead of selling at the worst possible moment, which is the single most expensive mistake in investing, and it's entirely psychological. You now understand the mechanism. Here's how to actually get there. If you're nowhere near $20,000 yet, here are 3 moves that actually shrink the timeline. First, know your real number. Pull up your last 3 months of transactions and calculate exactly what you spend versus what you earn. You cannot hit a target you've never actually measured. Second, automate the boring part. Set up an automatic transfer the same day your paycheck lands before you get the chance to spend it. Most banking apps now let you round purchases up to the nearest dollar and sweep the difference into savings automatically, so the habit builds itself while you're not paying attention. Third, and this moves the needle faster than any budgeting trick, increase your income. Ask for the raise you've earned, apply for the higher paying role, pick up a side project for a few months. You can only save a percentage of what you make. Grow the number on your paycheck, and you grow the number in your account faster than cutting a single latte ever will. $20,000 will not make you rich, but it's the exact point where your money stops being a static number on a screen and starts becoming a second paycheck, one that keeps showing up whether you do or not. Everything before this point takes pure effort. Everything after it takes effort plus capital working quietly alongside you on its own schedule, whether you're watching or not. If you haven't hit your first $20,000 yet, go watch How to Save 10K Effortlessly. Right here on the channel, it walks through exactly how to build the base this entire video is built on. And if this changed how you think about your own number, subscribe, hit like, and I'll see you in the next one.